Your Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria in absentia, he would be here any moment from now in representation. Chairman of the 2023 Annual Directors Conference, Dr. Ernest Ndukwe, members of the Federal Executive Council here present, namely the Honorable Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Wale Edun. We're expecting the Honorable Minister of Education and the Honorable Minister of Trade and Investment. Our esteemed keynote speakers, Dr. Olusegun Aganga and Dr. Armstrong Tagan. Good morning, sir. Good to see you. Other speakers and panelists here present, past presidents of the Chartered Institute of Directors, the chief host, Alhaji Tijani Borodo, President and Chairman, Governing Council, Chartered Institute of Directors, Nigeria, members of the Governing Council who are here present, Chairperson, Organizing Committee and host, Mrs. Fatumata Koka. A special shout out to our sponsors and our exhibitors, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. I warmly welcome you to the Annual Directors Conference and 40th anniversary of the Chartered Institute of Directors, Nigeria in the year of our Lord, 2023. My name is Eugenia Abu, multimedia strategy expert, media consultant, columnist, a loyal, patriotic Nigerian citizen. I shall be your guide and anchor today. In the letter that was issued me on behalf of the Governing Council, Mr. Dele Alimi, DG and CEO, said I was chosen as the official compere, and he wrote on behalf of the Governing Council. I'd like to say that it is such an honor to be here. This year's conference, with the theme, Driving Nigeria's Economic Transformation and Diversification, the Role of Corporate Governance, is a theme you will all agree is spot on for a time such as this. Corporate governance remains an important pointer for how boards propel the system and governance of their companies and institutions, with important pillars such as accountability, transparency, fairness, responsibility, discipline, and in a world that is turbulent, risk management. Today, as was rightly pointed out in some of the publicity material for this highly anticipated conference, are a gathering of some of Nigeria's finest and brightest in corporate governance, from CEOs to high flyers to boardroom gurus. They're ready to take on the task of high-level discourse of this year's groundbreaking theme, Driving Nigeria's Economic Transformation and Diversification, the Role of Corporate Governance. We're very pleased indeed to have the Coordinating Minister of the Economy join us for this all-important conference. But who better? Thank you for coming, sir. Who better to address this burning issue than the grand dons and dames of corporate governance in their numbers, all bright, all cerebral, to move the needle of our nation further into a forward-looking, sustainable economic transformation and diversification under the umbrella of Nigeria's foremost professional institute, which promotes directors, develops corporate governance, and represents her members to government, while enhancing the economy for business development, as well as promoting services to its members. It is heartwarming that in spite of the number of years it took to get a charter, which is about 40 years if I'm not wrong, that we still have the institute, the Chartered Institute of Directors continues to be the apex organization for improving the competency of its members, interfacing with government, and sharpening its business development. I doff my hat. I'm truly delighted to be joining you, and it's important to speak to the issues as we continue to discuss. It's time now, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, to invite the woman who is very much after my heart, to be here to speak to us about how we go forward today. A woman whose antecedents are across several corporate bodies. A woman who is very passionate about how Africa's economy grows and has interest in African markets. A woman who is our host today and who has shown her interest in vulnerable women and children across the continent. She is none other than the chairperson organizing committee for this event. Please help me welcome Mrs. Fatoumata Koka to deliver her welcome address.
Good morning. Thank you so much. Our MC is wonderful. Thanks for the introduction. I was wondering who she was talking about. Our special guest of honor, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Federal Republic of Nigeria. The chairman of this occasion, Dr. Ernest Ndukwe, OFR, Chairman, MTN, Nigeria. Our keynote speaker, Dr. Olusegun Agaga, CON, Chairman Leeway Pension PFA Limited. All of our special guests here, especially Mr. Wale Edu, Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of Economy. Thank you so much for being here. I know you had to juggle so many things to be here. We really appreciate your presence with us today. Our distinguished past presidents here present, members of the Governing Council of the Chartered Institute of Directors Nigeria, our members of the Executive Committee of the Chartered Institute of Directors Nigeria, members of the National Organizing Committee of the 2023 Annual Directors Conference here present, captains of industries, esteemed fellows and members of the great Institute of the Chartered, the Institute of Chartered Institute of Directors, our guests and our sponsors, members of the Fourth Estate of REM, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I must say this is my first official government speech ever that I had to quote through all of these things, and I'm just like, wow. Thank you for listening to all of that. And thank you, my ladies and gentlemen, for being here and of the press. On behalf of the National Organizing Committee of the 2020 Annual Directors Conference, I am completely overwhelmed, and I warmly welcome you to this year's annual conference. This year's conference, we have assembled the most brilliant intellects, seasoned boardroom experts, pioneers in entrepreneurship, and of course, serious-minded change makers in this room. It is another opportunity for us to expand our knowledge, adopt, connect with our peers, and also try to discover this horizon that we are looking at in corporate governance. Since our committee did our inaugural a few months ago, we were charged by the Governing Council to come up and oversee and plan this event. And I must tell you, it has been an amazing run with our committee. Thank you, committee members. It is important that we really ensure that we have a memorable 2 days with you, or 1.5 days, and make sure that this impact is going to go beyond this conference for the betterment of the Institute and that of Nigeria. We have been fortunate to receive an overwhelming support from all of our members, all of our sponsors, our partners, and of course, even our government officials. We have been very fortunate because the topic at hand is very apt for this time in our nation. I am sincerely grateful to every one of you for your support. The theme of this year is driving Nigeria's economy transformation and diversification, the role of corporate governance. We will offer a variety of opportunities to really go deeper into these conversations, and we have split up into 4 sub-themes that will be focused around this. Themes that actually are talking the heart of the nation: energy, talent. We're also talking about digital, and then of course, solid minerals and blue economy. This event is very enriched, and we have a lot of professionals that will be here with us discussing distinguished individuals, finest around the world when it comes to corporate governance and across international borders. We hope that our deliberation and discussion on this conference theme will lead to a deeper understanding of the issues and pave the way for vital economic transformation and the prosperity of Nigeria. I humbly request that we all engage actively, really deeply, because this interaction will lead to other things that we can work along with our stakeholders. We are all in this together, and all hands on deck. As organizers, we are committed to ensuring that all of our key holders in this dialogue get serious thought process from it, change, and also invaluable outcomes. We look forward to your enthusiastic involvement and meaningful contribution to bring this discussion to where we can thrive together, not only as private sector, but with public sector, to ensure that we get Nigeria to where she belongs. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to take this opportunity to say a huge thank you to my organizing committee members. I know I've thanked them before, but you have to understand, we are all doing this as a civic duty, and they have really put in their time, resources, and effort. And I do hope that the government, Mr. Minister, that we can work along with you to make sure that we accomplish all of your milestones, KPIs that you have set forth. We are deliberate in our involvement with corporate governance. I'm now going to close because I think I've gone a lot with this speech. But I will also say a big thank you to our president and chair of the governing council, Alhaji Tijani Borodo, FIOD. He has been such a great leader. He's focused on Nigeria prosperity. He gave us a task, and in about few days, the program committee was able to give him his results. And so thank you so much for that leadership that you've given us so far. And all of our executive members, all of the secretariat staff in the back, all of those that have been so tirelessly in the background working, thank you. To all of our attendees, please be involved. Please actively give us some brain thrust today and tomorrow, because it's only all of us in this room together that can help Nigeria be where she needs to be. Thank you, and may God bless you. Have a good day.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's encourage her, please. One of my favorite things about Nigeria is that they refer to people who have married into other communities as our wife. And because Mrs. Coker is our wife from Liberia, those names challenged her a little bit. And I've taken the responsibility to put her through those names going forward. But she did very well because she didn't flag. She kept going and she made an attempt, and she has said we should all be involved. Thank you, Mrs. Coker, for a wonderful opening. Mr. President, Mr. Chair, Honorable Minister, sir, we know that matters of state are calling you so urgently at this time, and you have taken the time to join us at this conference. We deeply appreciate you. The man I'm about to call is going to have to make his speech now, and then we'll revert to all the other speeches because he does need to go. The Honorable Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Wele Edun, is described as a revered economist, an investment banker, and a politician. Give a warm Abuja welcome to this gentleman who's coming up to deliver his speech.
Thank you very much, Eugenia, the chartered compere. Good morning. The special guest of honor at this occasion, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in absentia, shortly to be represented, the chairman, the president and council members of IOD or CIOD now, Nigeria, the guest speaker, my friend, my brother, Dr. Olusegun Aganga, my predecessor in office, as well as the former Minister for Trade and Industry. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, enough for protocol because I've already broken protocol by being allowed just to say a few remarks early on in the program. I'm happy to be here, and I congratulate the Chartered Institute of Directors. 40 years is no mean feat, and really it means that for 40 years, the president, the council members have been doggedly, determinedly kept the flag flying, kept the occasions being held, being met, the annual conferences such as this, as well as other other events. And you know, we all know the IOD in Pall Mall, London. Whenever you're looking to, you've been invited to one of those famous clubs, one of the landmarks is the IOD building. And it's the same type of effort that we, because I count myself as one of you, the same kind of effort that we have made to keep things going here is what they did there. So it's that example of sustainability and resilience that the sort of mother organization has shown is what we are showing here, and I really commend it as the way to go. Just to say one or two things, a few remarks about the title of this year's annual conference, Driving Nigeria's Economic Transformation and Diversification, the Role of Corporate Governance. As you all know, the policies of Mr. President are essentially to get the economy in a shape where your members, the private sector, can drive investment. The government doesn't have the funding is not really available internationally. They're not really interested. They have inflation to fight in the Western world, so they have to keep interest rates high. They're tightening the money supply. They're not providing any kind of development financing at the level needed. So we have to depend on our own domestic resource mobilization. An important part of that is the IOD's role in driving corporate governance, excellence in corporate governance, as a way of building trust in corporations and institutions, and adding value to the corporate world. And that's something that cannot be overemphasized. IOD has, or CIOD, as I would say, has in recent times played a major role in enhancing the quality of board leadership and organizations, and also played a key role in providing independent directors across all the boards in Nigeria. And that's a critical element of corporate governance that has become more and more emphasized. Of course, when we talk about investment and attracting investment into the economy, we are talking about domestic investors, but of course, we're talking about foreign investors. We're talking about foreign direct investment, private investment, and much more than what the multilateral organizations may have to offer. The big prize is to make ourselves an economy, our institutions, our corporate governance such that it attracts from around the world those interested, those who have surplus savings and are interested in investing it profitably. And strong corporate governance is a critical element of that. It increases investor confidence, provides access to capital, it promotes risk management, and drives innovation and efficiency. And at the end of the day, it helps to increase productivity. And the whole point of investment is that it increases productivity, grows the economy, it creates jobs, and reduces poverty, which is the overall aim of Mr. President and his economic policy and his priorities for the economy. Of course, looking to grow the economy rapidly, inclusively, and sustainably. And an important part of that, and you have here in the title, is yes, the transformation, but when we talk about diversification, the economy is actually diversified. Dr. Ernest Ndukwe will tell you that his sector contributes 19% of GDP. So it's not all about the oil sector. You have the agriculture, you have manufacturing, you have trade, you have transportation. It is diversified. What is not diversified is the source of foreign exchange revenue. So from all those different sectors, whether it's telecoms, whether it is transport, whether it is manufacturing, there is not enough foreign exchange earnings or enough foreign exchange savings to give us what you need, which is a positive balance of trade. You need your export earnings to be greater than your import expenditure, so you have foreign exchange earnings with which to stabilize the currency and so on and so forth. So the agenda is first and foremost to provide a stable economy. And we mean by a stable economy, one that is growing more than the population growth, one that has where inflation is low, one where the exchange rate is stable, and therefore you can have reasonable interest rates where people can afford to borrow to invest in productive activity. And it is that framework, it is that pillar and that basis that Mr. President is emphasizing and working on, and you can all see how much of a work in progress it is. And it is painful because of where we are coming from. As the later Chief Abiola of blessed memory used to say, if you are running forwards and looking backwards, you will fall over. So there's no real benefit to looking backwards. What we need to do is look forward and look at the task at hand. And one thing that I would just sort of also wrap it up with my brief remarks with is that Mr. President has the empathy and has the commitment to ensuring that as much as possible, the pain of reform, the pain of necessary reform, which takes time for the benefits to feed through, is minimized, particularly for the poor and for the most vulnerable. It was a commitment he made as a candidate, as a commitment he made as president-elect, and it's something that he has been doing his best to implement as president, interventions on behalf of the poorest and the most vulnerable in society. And that's where we are, and the Institute of Directors, of course, has a major role to play, championing corporate governance, basically doing what you're doing so that we have a clean, neat, efficient corporate sector which the world can partner with and come and invest in Nigeria for growth, development, and reduction of poverty. Thank you very much.
Truly a gentleman, the Honorable Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy has given me a hand to come down from the podium, and that is indeed what the good Nigerian gentlemen are made of, the good ones. I'd like to mark that as the good ones. The other ones will say, you wore the high heel, try and come down by yourself. You know, so I'm glad. I'm going to ask media to stand by for me. So that we don't feel a sense of loss. The national anthem tends to make us feel together. And so I've asked the Honorable Minister to give us a chance to play the national anthem before he leaves so that we truly start this event. Honorable Minister, sir, we crave your indulgence. Media would like to all be uprising. I've been at events where the anthem was played twice, and we can't make this event go forward if we don't salute our nation. A salute to the Nigerian nation, the national anthem. The importance of the national anthem means that we are all together. We feel that we've started something rather than we have a hollow in our stomachs as if something has not started. This conference is critical to how the rest of the days go by in terms of panels and discussions. The Honorable Minister of Finance is being seen off by some members of council. and therefore we will proceed with today's event. The Institute has made significant and highly impressive strides working closely with government and corporate organizations, bilateral and diplomatic missions to raise the standard of corporate government and leadership in the private and public sectors. Corporate governance, according to our last speaker, is about enhancing the quality of world leadership and organizations and providing independent directors, and innovation improves productivity and reduces poverty. Basically, in a nutshell, those are his words today. The delivery of the opening remark is conferred on no less a personality than the man whose journey across boardrooms spans over 3 decades. Lawyer and boardroom guru, he brings a wealth of experience to his position as president and chairman of council of the Chartered Institute of Directors, Nigeria. Join me to give a warm annual directors conference welcome to my brother and friend, president and chairman of council of the Institute of Chartered Directors, Alhaji Tijani Borodo.
Our special guest of honor, His Excellency Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, President, Federal Republic of Nigeria, whom we hope is going to be represented by one of his honorable ministers. The chairman of the occasion, Mr. Ernest Ndukwe, Chairman MTN Nigeria, guests of honor, Dr. Doris Anite, Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Professor Tahir Mamman, Minister of Education, whom we are expecting, and of course, Mr. Wale Edun, Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, who has just had to leave, and we thank him for being here on time. He was here before 10. He has other state matters, that's why he left. We thank him for being here. The keynote speaker, my brother, Dr. Olusegun Aganga, CON, former Minister of Finance and former Minister of Trade and Industry. The chairman of the Annual Directors Conference Planning Committee, Mrs. Fatimatu Koka, our wife, our distinguished speakers, discussants, moderators at the various sessions of this conference, distinguished past presidents, members of the Governing Council of the Chartered Institute of Directors, Nigeria, members of the Executive Committee of the Institute, icons and captains of industries, esteemed fellows and members of our great institute, our guests and sponsors, members of the Fourth Estate of Realm, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is with great honor and pleasure that I join the chairman of the National Organizing Committee of the 2023 Annual Directors Conference, Mrs. Fatimatu Koka, MIOD, to heartily welcome you all to the 2023 edition of the prestigious Chartered Institute of Directors Nigeria Annual Directors Conference, the platform where we converge to share insights, knowledge, and strategies aimed at driving Nigeria's economic transformation and diversification through the lenses of good corporate governance. We are deeply honored and privileged of hosting His Excellency Mr. President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, amongst us today. As I said, we are expecting his representative to come. It fills us with immense joy to extend our warmest welcome to Your Excellency as our special guest of honor. We express our gratitude for graciously accepting our invitation. The presence of His Excellency is a source of great delight, and I expect that our discussions at this conference will play a pivotal role in shaping the government's pursuit of good corporate governance, economic development, and national growth. In organizing this conference, our institute intends to provide far-reaching, innovative solutions in governance, which will aid and support private sector directors and top decision makers in all ministries, departments, and agencies of government, to emplace and foster a conducive business environment that will encourage robust private sector participation in the Nigerian economy. I would also like to express our heartfelt appreciation to the chairman of this occasion, Dr. Ernest Ndukwe, OFR, chairman of MTN Communications Nigeria. Your consistent support for our institute has been instrumental to our success and delivery of our mandate as a prime business membership organization. Dr. Ndukwe, we thank you most sincerely. And of course, we thank MTN. In a similar vein, we are delighted by the presence of Dr. Olusegun Aganga, CON, the former Minister of Finance and the former Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment of our dear nation. Of course, he is the current chairman of Leadway Pension PFA Limited. Dr. Aganga has held these critical positions at various times in our national history and no doubt possesses the experience and knowledge to set the tone for further discussions of the theme of this conference. Your presence at this event is greatly appreciated. Thank you most sincerely. Let me also place on record our special appreciation to all our guests of honor, particularly Mr. Wale Edun, Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy. We thank you most sincerely. We appreciate your heeding our call and honoring us with your presence at this opening session of the 2023 Annual Directors Conference of the Chartered Institute of Directors, Nigeria. Furthermore, we extend a warm welcome to all the distinguished guests from both public and private sectors, each of whom deserves special recognition. We are honored by the presence of members of the diplomatic corps, esteemed government officials, leaders of the organized private sector, chief executives of corporate entities and public institutions, and other distinguished guests. Ladies and gentlemen, the Chartered Institute of Directors, Nigeria, takes immense pride in being at the forefront of advocating for corporate governance in Nigeria. Indeed, good corporate governance is good business for our country. The Institute represents directors in their capacities, empowering them to make substantial contributions to the well-being of the companies they lead and national development. We are committed to establishing and maintaining connections among business leaders at the highest levels and collaborating with the government to create and foster business-friendly policies, particularly in the face of challenging circumstances. I'm sure I recollect the words of the Minister for Economy asking for the collaboration between the public and private sector, and Charter Institute of Directors is a veritable tool for this collaboration. We're happy to do that. One of the flagship initiatives through which the Charter Institute of Directors engages with various stakeholders is the Annual Directors Conference. This conference stands at the centerpiece of the Institute's public engagement series, where leaders from the private and public sectors converge to deliberate on critical economic, social, and business issues. The Institute brings to the fore topics that pertain to ethics, leadership, management, and as we focus on corporate governance. Allow me to emphasize that as the leading voice, the institute that advocates for corporate governance in Nigeria, the leadership of the institute views this event as imperative, particularly in the light of the evolving Nigerian corporate and business landscape. I'm therefore delighted that Dr. Olusegun Aganga, CON, agreed to be the keynote speaker for this occasion. Dr. Aganga has long been an advocate for innovative economic transformation through diversification. As a federal minister, he visited about 68 different countries, telling our stories and marketing Nigeria. You will therefore agree with me that we have a befitting keynote speaker at this historic occasion. Dr. Aganga, well done for what you've done and what you are doing. The theme of this year's conference, Driving Nigeria's Economic Transformation and Diversification, the Role of Corporate Governance, highlights the crucial role that corporate governance plays in advancing our nation's economic growth and development. Within this overarching theme, we have chosen 4 sub-themes that specifically address key sectors and their potential for Nigeria's economic transformation. The first sub-theme, how governance reforms in the Nigerian energy sector can help deliver a new Nigeria, recognizes the significance of energy sector and the need for effective governance to drive its development. The energy sector is the lifeblood of our economy, and as we continue to face challenges and opportunities in this sector, we must explore how sound corporate governance can be catalyst to the much-needed reforms. Our discussions will shed light on the path to a more sustainable and efficient energy sector that powers a new Nigeria. Of course, that includes the renewable energy. The second theme, significance of corporate governance in Nigeria's digital transformation, acknowledges the rapidly evolving digital landscape and its impact on our economic future. The digital age is upon us, and Nigeria is no exception to the profound changes it brings. Corporate governance practices must adapt to the new realities of the digital landscape, ensuring that ethical principles and accountability are upheld. Our deliberations will address the role of corporate governance in fostering a secure and innovative digital transformation in our nation. You recall what the Honorable Minister just said in terms of the contribution of MTN and other digital platforms to the Nigerian economy, 13%, which is humongous. The third sub-theme, optimizing demand-driven talents in Nigeria, underscores the importance of human capital in driving our nation's economic growth. Human capital is at the core of any economic transformation. To harness the vast potential of our population, we must explore how corporate governance can help in identifying, nurturing, and retaining the best talents in Nigeria. The discussions in this sub-theme will offer insights into building a workforce that meets the demands of rapidly evolving global landscape. Don't forget, we are over 200 million as Nigerians, so we need to harness the talents that we have in this country. Lastly, the fourth sub-theme, agriculture, solid minerals, and the blue economy as drivers of national economic transformation, emphasizes the untapped potential of these sectors in diversifying Nigeria's economy. Beyond oil, we must diversify our economy. Agriculture, solid minerals, and the blue economy present ample growth opportunities. Our conference will delve into pivotal role corporate governance can play in unleashing the potential of these sectors, thus contributing to the larger goal of national economic transformation. We also recall what the Honorable Minister has just told us, the diversification in our economy, what we needed to diversify as much as possible, the FX income apart from the oil. He made that point and I've taken note of it. Ladies and gentlemen, these themes and sub-themes we have chosen are not merely theoretical or academic exercises. They are rooted in the urgent needs and challenges facing Nigeria. They have real-world implications for our businesses, our communities, and our nation as a whole. Throughout this conference, we'll engage in discussions, panels, and workshops that delve into these sub-themes, bringing together industry leaders, professionals, and stakeholders. Together, we'll explore innovative strategies, share best practices, and develop actionable solutions to drive Nigeria's economic transformation. I wish to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed sponsors, dedicated partners, the tireless organizing committee, led by Fatimatu, and the enthusiastic participants who have played an integral role in making this conference a resounding success. Your presence here today not only exemplifies your unwavering commitment to advancing good corporate governance practices, but also signifies your dedication to driving Nigeria's economic development. The significance of your support in bringing this event to life cannot be overstated. Your generosity, expertise, and resources have been instrumental in making this conference a reality, and we're truly thankful for your unwavering commitment. To our fellows and members, we recognize and deeply appreciate your alignment with the values and objectives of the Chartered Institute of Directors in Nigeria. Your contributions and involvement serve as a testament to the shared vision of promoting excellence in governance, ethics, and good leadership. Together, we can pave the way for a brighter future for Nigeria, one characterized by transparency, accountability, and sustainable growth. In closing, I invite you all to actively participate, network, and share your expertise in upcoming sessions. Let us work together to drive Nigeria's economic transformation and diversification through the prisms of good corporate governance tenets. The future of our nation is in our hands, and I believe that with our collective dedication and knowledge, we can create a new Nigeria that is prosperous, sustainable, just, fair, and equitable with renewed hope. Thank you for listening. Lastly, I must mention the 40 years we've had as a chartered institute. It's been a tortuous journey. I'm pleased to say that this is the first conference we're having as a chartered institute. So this is the next level for our chartered institute of directors. Thank you for listening.
It's a long walk. Let's give him a round of applause as he makes his way to his seat. Elijah Tijani Borodo, exchanging pleasantries with our guests, chairman, keynote speaker, president and chairman of council of the Institute of Directors, Nigeria, the Chartered Institute. He has spoken about what to expect in the next day or two. He has advised us too, like the chairperson organizing committee, to participate, as we cannot drive the transformation of Nigeria's economy without all hands being on deck. A man who has spent his time at the Ahmadu Bello University Zaria, studying law, spent his time at the University of Essex, has been to Harvard, and has his hand in many pies, including banking and law and consulting. Let's give another round of applause to Alhaji Borodo. And when we talk universities, one of my favorite things is sparring with my friends who have gone to other universities. I went to Ahmadu Bello University, proudly. And those other universities who are not Ahmadu Bello University always have a thing when I say I went to Ahmadu Bello University. And they ask me, you're not sure it's... I have a very close member of family who went to the University of Ibadan. And we're constantly having this fight about which university is better. And I say, well, one of the things I hope perhaps I can do in my time is to go to the University of Ibadan and show them what ABU is made of. Having said that, this particular individual in my family decided that they were not going to go to ABU Zaria because that was where all northern people were going, and therefore in rebellion went to University of Ibadan. The man I'm about to bring up will tell us whether it was in rebellion that he went to the University of Ife instead of the University of Nigeria, Nsukka. I'm bringing up a man who is a professional telecommunications engineer. He's an entrepreneur, business management trainer with expertise in public policy and utility regulation, a fellow of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, the Nigerian Institute of Management, and the Nigerian Academy of Engineering. Served as the executive vice chairman, CEO of the Nigerian Communications Commission between 2000 and 2010. Under his tenure at the NCC, the nation's ICT sector witnessed unprecedented growth and transformation. He championed the founding of the West African Telecommunications Regulators Association and later served as its president for several years. He also served as chairman of the African Telecommunications Union and vice chairman of the Telecom Development Advisory Group of the International Telecommunications Union representing Nigeria. He holds BSc degree, Electronic and Electrical Engineering from the University of Ife, now Obafemi Awolowo University, a DSc Honors degree, University of Nigeria, Nsukka, and a DTech. He returned to Ife for the DTech degree. He's completed executive education programs at Lagos Business School, Harvard Business School, IMD Business School, INSEAD Business School, Columbia Business School, and the Kellogg's School of Management. His other directorships include System Specs Limited, Open Media Group, and Choice Dental Limited. He's a recipient of several awards. Shall I name them? It will probably take us another 10 minutes. But one of the most intriguing things about him is that he has 5 honorary degrees from different universities across Nigeria. Help me welcome Chairman MTN Nigeria, Chairman of this event, Dr. Ernest Ndukwe. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. I will not try to do the protocol list. Is it morning or afternoon? It's morning still. Largely because the chairperson of the organizing committee and the president himself have done a wonderful job about the protocols. So I'll just recognize the president and wish him well. Thank you very much. It is my great pleasure to serve as chairperson of the opening session of this annual Directors Conference of the Chartered Institute of Directors, Nigeria. I sincerely thank the President, the Governing Council, the fellows and members of the Institute for the confidence bestowed upon me to preside over this meeting. The annual Directors Conference, I'm told, is a flagship event that has become a rallying point and a gathering of accomplished minds and influential figures in the realm of governance and leadership in Nigeria. And as stated earlier, the theme of the conference, driving economic transformation and diversification, the role of corporate governance, is particularly apt in Nigeria today. There is no doubt that corporate governance is a crucial driver of economic transformation and plays a significant role in shaping businesses and economies. This provides a foundation for accountability and ensures that the board and management of organizations have the responsibility for their actions, thus reducing the likelihood of corruption, mismanagement, and other unethical practices. Transparency is also an important aspect of corporate governance that helps build trust among investors and stakeholders, thereby fostering a conducive environment for economic growth. On the corporate level, the board of directors sets the tone at the top through exemplary conduct and leadership, while it delegates the responsibility of implementing the governance structures to management. One of the key outcomes of effective corporate governance is the efficient allocation of resources. Clear and efficient governance structures help companies and nation states to manage their resources more effectively, leading to an improved operational performance and increased productivity. This, in turn, bolsters competitiveness, and contributes to economic development. The long-term sustainability of businesses and the economy is another hallmark of good corporate governance. By focusing on long-term strategies rather than short-term gains, companies contribute to stable, enduring economic health. Alongside these ethical business practices, these ethical business practices are promoted, fostering responsible decision-making and a positive impact on society. Additionally, corporate governance encourages robust risk management practices, helping companies identify, assess, and mitigate risks. Risk preparedness is essential for preventing crises and eliminating their impact on the overall economy, promoting stability and growth. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Nigeria stands at a critical juncture in its nationhood journey. The time has come for us to stop paying lip service to the need for economic diversification and take decisive action that will bring this to reality. I know the minister talked about the fact that the economy is already diversified, but I think it still needs more diversification because today we are still depending on one product, which is oil, even for our revenue. So we must explore the vast potential in various other sectors such as agriculture, manufacturing, technology, and services, especially areas where we have competitive advantage as a nation. I was speaking to some people from Poland yesterday. It's amazing how much countries like that export in the area of agriculture, poultry, animal husbandry, all those things. It was when the war started in Ukraine that we found out that the world was depending on Ukraine for wheat. So there's still a lot of room to really, truly diversify our economy as a nation. A diversified economy will greatly reduce our vulnerability to global oil price fluctuations, create employment opportunities across diverse fields, and foster innovation and competitiveness on the global stage. This shift will not only fortify our economy against shocks, but also contribute to equitable income distribution and support the journey towards a more resilient and prosperous nation. For us, as people who live in this country, diversification is not a choice, it is a necessity for achieving sustainable growth. The President has already talked about the sub-themes at this conference, which have been well conceived, apt and timely in addressing the quest even for diversification. The critical importance of governance reforms in the energy sector and their direct impact on our nation's progress cannot be overlooked. The lifeblood of any thriving economy is energy. Governance reforms and diversification to multiple sources of energy will be a catalyst for economic growth. The transformative power of corporate governance in our quest for digital revolution needs to be recognized. The intersection of governance and digital innovation is to be understood by boards and executives in today's dynamic technology landscape. Tremendous opportunities in the digital space can be unlocked by businesses adopting progressive governance frameworks that promote agility, risk management, and ethical decision-making. I also want to say that optimization of talents is deemed crucial for sustainable economic development. A youthful population brimming with talent, creativity, entrepreneurship can be nothing but a blessing to any country. To harness this potential, the focus of our governance structures should be on nurturing and empowering our human resources. The full potential of our nation's talents can be unlocked, and a vibrant, diversified economy created by establishing inclusive, merit-based recruitment practices, investing in continuous learning and development, and creating an enabling environment for innovation. In my paper, I actually highlighted merit-based recruitment. We must play matches with first 11s if we hope to win our matches. The immense economic potential lying dormant in the sectors of agriculture, solid minerals, and the blue economy also deserves mention. The transformative power of these sectors on our national economic trajectory can be fully leveraged by fostering public-private partnerships, implementing market-oriented policies, and developing robust value chains. Ladies and gentlemen, permit me to figuratively put in perspective Nigeria's telecommunications industry transformation and diversification, which have continued to positively impact our economy since 2001. From a paltry figure of less than 500,000 lines in 2001, Nigeria now boasts of about 220 million lines connected in our country. It was a bold step indeed. This is a great example of transformative power that was catalyzed by liberalization, diversification, and good regulatory practices in that sector of the economy. As directors, I want to see an elite consensus that will push us to collaboratively work to drive the change we desire and deserve to shape a future for this country where ethical practices, sustainability, and innovation constitute the cornerstones of our actions. It is time to break free from the chains of a mono-economic structure and embrace this pivotal moment to diversify our economy, thus laying the foundation for a more stable, innovative, and prosperous future for generations to come. In conclusion, I urge everyone at this conference to collaborate, just like the MC and the President has also advised, exchange ideas, and foster partnerships that will not only strengthen our organizations and nation states, but contribute to the overall transformation of Nigeria's economy. Let us all be vanguards of change, steering Nigeria towards a future that is inclusive, prosperous, and sustainable for us, for all of us. I wish you all very fruitful deliberations. Thank you very much.
Our chair has spoken, and very well spoken indeed he has. He has made allusions to some of the most important areas of field in Nigeria that draws us back. These areas of field include merit-based recruitment. And for me, that's one of the biggest things he said. Let's give him another round of applause for his paper. Chairman's pick the person who really does define the position. You pick someone else for reasons that, to be honest, I have never been able to explain. Somebody has the goods, he has the wherewithal, he has the emotional intelligence, she has brilliance, she brings A papers, and then we pick somebody who cannot write minutes. It is truly a malady, to be honest, and it bothers me a lot. So I'm very pleased that Mr. Chairman put that on the front burner. We thank you, sir, for delivering what would set the tone for this conference. Thank you very much indeed. I'd like to pause a little bit and take a very special list that I have in my possession. Leading the Chartered Institute of Directors, of course, is Alhaji Tijani Borodo, whom you've already met. We have Mr. Adetunji Oyebanji, first Vice President. There you are. It's good to see you. Welcome. We have my sister, Mrs. Amina Oyagbola, second Vice President. Dr. E.J. Jidenna, immediate past President. Mr. Emmanuel Ijewere, past President, and I will continue to list them as we go along. Let's give them a round of applause. It's on the shoulders of these men and women that the Institute of Chartered Directors stand. And we have Ms. B.C. Moloko, past President. Let's continue to clap for them, whether they are here or not. Mr. Chike Nwanze, past President. Architect Thomas Awagu, past President. Chief Mrs. Eniola Fadayomi, who was past president, Mr. Yemi Akeju, past president, Chief Chris Okunowo, past president. I have here inside my list, of course, Mrs. Fatoumata Koka, Chairperson, National Organizing Committee, Alhaji Lamis Diko, Advisor, National Organizing Committee, Mr. Dele Alimi is the Director General and CEO. And we have, of course, several members of the National Organizing Committee. I asked my personal assistant to give me a list of other past presidents that I don't have, that have come out of this book, because all of them are critical and important to why we are here today. And I have Shetima Abagana. Please let's give a round of applause. Mr. Femi Ekundayo. Alhaji Rufai Mohammed. I have a couple of names here of our past presidents who are no longer with us, and I'll take a moment to recognize Chief Gubadia, Chief Oludoyin Olakunrin, Chief Ali Baba, Royal Highness Oba Oladele Olashore, Alhaji Amusa Oladimeji Gbadamosi, and Chief Dr. Olushola Dada. We do not become except we look back. We become only because those who were before us and our forebears did the right things and gave us the opportunities and the building structures that have brought us where we are today. And we thank all past presidents and all other executive committee members who may not be here with us and those who cannot make it to this conference. I'd like to give a short profile of a keynote speaker with whom I've had cause to work many years ago in the middle of COVID, and we had a function and something that required that we did some virtual work. During that period, there were many people that were caught lounging, some of them forgetting to wear their jackets. And we then put it to the test that it was possible to have a virtual event where His Excellency, the former Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, attended virtually, and the Senate President. And there were early years of virtual work, and our keynote speaker was in the center of this work, enabled me to deliver at my best, and was himself at his sterling best. Today, we welcome him to this event as a well-respected keynote speaker. Olusegun Aganga, CON, is a chartered accountant with professional career extending over 4 decades in the private and public sectors. He was Nigeria's Minister of Finance, Chairman of the Economic Management Team, and then Nigeria's Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, a major contributor to making Nigeria the premier destination for investment in Africa. He was also responsible for many transformational milestones in Nigeria, including establishing the country's sovereign wealth fund, issuing the nation's first Eurobond, structuring and sourcing the finance for the first standard gauge rail in Nigeria, developing the country's industrial revolution plan, and supervising the development of Nigeria's first code of corporate governance, which covered the private, public, and non-for-profit sectors. Prior to becoming a minister, he was managing director at Goldman Sachs London, and before that, a senior director at Ernst & Young London. He was also the chairman of the board of governors of the World Bank and International Monetary Fund in 2010 and in 2011, the chairman of the World Trade Organization Ministerial Conference, making him the first African to chair these two organizations. Currently, Olusegun Aganga sits on a number of boards and is an advisor to companies and governments in the UK, the United States, and Nigeria. He's a founder of the Nigeria Leadership Initiative, the chairman of the board of Leadway Pensure Limited, a board member of TechnoServe in the United States, an advisory board member of the Queen's Commonwealth Trust, and a member of the Investor Advisory Council of Time Partners in the United Kingdom. He is the author of a bestseller, Reclaiming the Jewel of Africa. Put your hands together. Welcome our keynote speaker, Dr. Olusegun Aganga. Thank you very much. Keep clapping as he makes his way to the podium. I thank you very much indeed.
The President and Chairman of the Council of the Chartered Institute of Directors, the Chairman of today's conference, this morning's conference. Please allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to stand on the existing protocol already well established by the compare, the Chairman of the organizing committee, and of course, the President and Chairman. I'm delighted and honored to be the keynote speaker at the opening session of this 2023 Annual Directors Conference of the Chartered Institute of Directors, Nigeria. I have been asked to speak on the theme, driving Nigeria's economic transformation and diversification, the role of corporate governance. First, I would like to commend the Institute for choosing this topic. Every successive government in Nigeria has talked about the need to transform and diversify our economy for decades, but none has identified corporate governance as a major catalyst for driving that transformation. And there is no better time than now to draw the attention of the nation and managers of the economy to this significant omission. As I indicated in my recent book, Reclaiming the Jewel of Africa, the economy is the #1 priority of any government. In some countries, elections are won or lost because of the economy. Our economy today is relatively small, as you've heard from other speakers. It is not growing fast enough, and it is not inclusive. It has all the features of a weak economy: import dependent, weak and unstable macroeconomic environment, export of primary products without value addition, high and unsustainable level of debt servicing cost to national revenue, fall in real wages, high dependency on foreign earnings without building productive capacity, high incidence of poverty, high rate of unemployment, high rate of immigration of skilled professionals, weak governance structure, and prevalence of insecurity. The good news, though, is that the current government has started taking some steps to address some of these issues. So the recurring question many keep asking is, why has a country which has about 85 million hectares of land where almost everything can be grown, more than 45 solid minerals in commercial quantity, a top 10, 15 oil and gas producer in the world, a young population which is the envy of the rest of the world, and some of the brightest people in the world not being able to transform its economy and diversify its sources of revenue for decades. It is not because we do not have economic plans or that we do not have economic policies to diversify and transform our great country into what it should be, a prosperous nation. The simple answer is a lack of continuity and extremely poor quality of implementation of economic plans and policies. I will give you an example. Nigeria officially launched its industrial plan to diversify the economy in 2014, although it commenced implementation in 2011. But from 2015, that plan was put in the cooler for about 8 years. As a result, the growth of manufacturing's contribution to GDP, which was in double digits throughout 2011 to 2014, peaking at about 24.59% in 2013, crashed to negative 1.46% in 2015, went further down in 2016 to negative 4.32%, and only grew marginally by 2.45% in 2022. This is exactly what the lack of continuity does to an economy. If it had been implemented rigorously, Nigeria would have become a top competitive global exporter of at least 3 or 4 of the 13 products identified for export by now, and would have expanded its sources of foreign income generation. It is all about continuity, and it's all about discipline. Borrowing the words of a hedge fund manager, I would say that we are long on plans and policies, but we are short on implementation. And why is that so? It is because our institutions are particularly the economic institutions are weak or do not exist. That is why, according to Darren Acemoglu and James Robinson, in the book, Why Nations Fail because institutions are weak or do not exist. Nations fail when they have extractive economic institutions supported by extractive political institutions that impede and even block economic growth. Nations fail when these things are present in any country. The third question you may ask then is, why are institutions weak? And the answer is that they are weak mainly because of the poor corporate governance and governance in public institutions. An area that has been overlooked and rarely mentioned when talking about the economy. That is why today I especially commend the President and Council and Chairman of the Council and members of the Chartered Institute of Directors for picking this topic. I will be talking about governance in the corporate world and also in government, because the economy, as you know, is driven by both the private and the public sector. So what is corporate governance? We've had a number of definitions indirectly in the speeches we have had earlier on, but the OECD defines corporate governance as a set of relationships between a company's management, its board, its shareholders, and other shareholders. It provides the structure through which the objectives of the company are set and the means of attaining those objectives and monitoring performance in place. So it's all about the 4 P's. P's meaning people, it's about purpose, it's about processes, and it's about performance. In Nigeria, where both the public and private sectors play a significant role in the economy, we have to take a holistic view and expand the discussion to cover governance in the public sector. That was why the original National Code of Corporate Governance, developed by the Financial Reporting Council in 2013-2014, when I was the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, had 3 parts to that code. It had codes for the private sector, code for the public sector, and for the non-profit organizations. The public sector governance code was supposed to cover all MDAs, state-owned entities, all parastatals, and all government commercial agencies. So we now move to what is the role of corporate governance in economic diversification and transformation. The chairman of today's occasion has talked a bit about some of them, but let me go through some of them. Let me highlight a few key aspects of how corporate governance can drive Nigeria's economic transformation and diversification. We've heard a lot about attracting investments. Yes, it does. In fact, Nigeria needs substantial investments to develop and diversify its economy. The attainment of the National Development Plan 2021 to 2025 will require an investment of about 348 trillion naira. And 85.7% of that is expected to come from the private sector. It is fair to say that Nigeria's ability to attract investments into critical areas of the economy has not been more important than now, and the quality of the corporate governance in both the private and the public sector will be a major catalyst to that objective. Today, we talk about the NLNG as the bird that lays the golden egg, because it pays the federal government beautiful dividends in dollars. They used to be my good friends when I was Minister of Finance because of that. But because of its remarkable success and its ability to diversify the economy and attract investments, a lot of the success can easily be attributed to the strength of the corporate governance practices that were put in place by the owners, 51% of whom are multinational companies. For those who have followed the NLNG, you will find that they underperformed when the all multinationals were the minority shareholders. The shareholding was adjusted, corporate governance was changed, strengthened, and from then they were able to attract investment heavily into NLNG, became extremely successful, and paid a lot of taxes, a lot of dividends in foreign currency to the federal government. That was down to the quality of corporate governance in NLNG. Now, the success story of the privatization and transformation of the telecom industry, you've heard a bit about that already, will also not be complete without the mention of the strong corporate governance at the NCC and the role of the board led by the late Alhaji Ahmed Joda, the former chairman of NCC, and Dr. Ernest Ndukwe, the CEO at the time, and today, the chairman of the session. You heard him talk briefly about that, about liberalization, about privatization. That is what we need to replicate in other sectors and allow the private sector to take. Government needs to provide the environment, the laws, the policies, and all that, and allow the private sector to run with it. That was what happened in the telecom industry. But we had good, strong corporate governance at the NCC at the time to make that happen. There's a lot of stories around it. There were a lot of bottlenecks they had to go through. I could have been sabotaged at the large stage from what I know, which I can't talk about, but we got there. But due to the quality of the board at that time. Another example which I gave in my book, Reclaiming the Jewel of Africa, is the Saudi Basic Industries Corporation, known as SABIC, a Saudi Arabian multinational corporation that was established in 1976 by Aramco. Aramco is Saudi Arabia's NNPC, with an investment of about 1.8 billion. Today, it is the second largest diversified chemical company in the world and a market leader in many products. Its mandate was to pioneer and drive gas industrialization in Saudi Arabia by adding value to the gas produced in that country. The company had total assets of about $83.46 billion as at the end of December 2022, operates in more than 50 countries, and generated about $46.6 billion in sales revenue in 2022. The interesting thing is that SABIC has, in turn, created the Saudi Iron and Steel Company, one of the world's largest fully integrated producers of iron and steel. Again, corporate governance has been identified as a catalyst for the remarkable success of SABIC. Another way corporate governance can help diversify economy is that strong corporate governance will strengthen institutions that are responsible for economic diversification and transformation. Governance in public sector enterprises ensures that they fulfill their mandates, achieve their intended outcomes for the citizens and service users, and operate effectively, efficiently, transparently, and in ethical manner. It significantly improves the quality of implementation and allows for continuity and ensures sustainability, which have been our biggest obstacle for decades. The real reasons we have failed to diversify our economy. Corporate governance framework that encourages entrepreneurship and support micro, small, and medium enterprises can be instrumental in diversifying the economy. The MSMEs are often engines of growth in emerging economies. In Nigeria, they account for about 76% of the workforce, about 50% of the GDP, and about 7% of the export proceeds we have in the country. Effective corporate governance and its mechanisms will foster innovation, which can drive new industries, create opportunities for diversification, improve accountability and transparency, which will lead to better quality of implementation of plans to diversify the economy and curb corruption and waste. It will also build trust in citizens and investors. But to benefit from all this, there are some challenges that we have to address. So, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, for Nigeria to truly harness the power of corporate governance in both the private and public sectors for economic diversification and transformation, it must address certain challenges. And I will name just a few. I'll mention just a few. The first being political interference. When political considerations heavily influence the decision-making process in public organizations, it can compromise the impartiality and objectivity needed for good governance. It starts with the process and the quality of making appointments. Ladies and gentlemen, why must critical appointments such as heads of parastatals, board members, go to party members as dividends of democracy? That is not the dividend of democracy. The dividend of democracy should be good governance. The appointment and promotion of individuals based on personal relationships, political party affiliations, rather than on merit. You heard the word merit from the chairman of this occasion. Rather than on merit, weaken the very institutions that we need to diversify and transform our economy. We cannot eat our cake and expect to still have it. We must always play with our first 11, as you heard earlier. There's no effective mechanism for holding economic institutions that are supposed to drive economic transformation in the country accountable. That is why we have high levels of waste, leakages, and corruption, and poor execution of existing diversification plans and policies. We have heard about oil theft for years. We have had claims that 85% of the oil that are supposed to be exported are stolen. We know about insecurity. We have heard about high levels of unemployment, poverty, inflation, low manufacturing value addition, tough macroeconomic environment. But tell me, who has ever been held accountable and how many people have been sacked as a result of this? The answer is none. So can you imagine this happening in the private sector and the management and the board will still remain in place? It is not possible. So why would we accept that in such important economic institutions in the country? No heads have rolled in all these things. We talk about it, we laugh about it, we enjoy it for years, and nothing happens. There's no accountability, there's no consequence for performance or poor performance. The third point we need to address is the ineffective oversight. There are limited checks and balances on government agencies and public institutions. And these have led to inefficiencies, misuse of public funds, poor implementation of economic plans and policies. There's no effective oversight because of the poor quality of the board, no relevant key performance indicators, no reward for good performance, and consequences for bad performance or bad behavior. So, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, before I conclude, I was told I only have 20 minutes, so I had to tailor this to 20 minutes. I would like to leave you with some recommendations. The first is that the NCCG 2018 for the private sector has been issued and has strengthened corporate governance in the private sector. But focusing, I must make the point very, very clearly that focusing on private sector governance alone to drive economic diversification and transformation is recipe for failure. You will fail. The public sector has a major role to play, particularly in developing countries. At the very least, it determines how high the private sector jumps. It determines how fast you can run. No matter how much you want to run, it determines how fast you can run. That is why it is critical for the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria to issue the National Code of Corporate Governance for the public sector as soon as possible after due consultations. Full implementation of the Nigerian Code of Corporate Governance in the public sector will have a dramatic and positive effect on our economic institutions. I tell you that because I know what it will deliver. The second point is the National Assembly should amend the acts which establish the ministries and agencies to make the adoption of the codes mandatory for the public sector. The third is that in addition to the acts being amended, the acts should specify the skills, the competence, the experience required to chair or sit on the board and to be in the executive management team of an agency. That was one of the strategies I employed to have strong corporate governance and effective leadership at the Sovereign Wealth Fund, the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority, and which regulators like the National Pension Commission have used effectively to regulate the pension industry, which is now one of the best regulated in the country. And I go back to my earlier point that economic institutions and agencies must be held accountable. As I say, nations fail because institutions are weak or do not exist. Any industrial plan or privatization plan will fail if the relevant economic institutions are weak. Government agencies are economic institutions and the implementing arm of the ministries and are therefore critical to any economic diversification plan. At a minimum, competent technocrats and even politicians, there are politicians that are competent too. But competency is the most important thing. Competent technocrats who have a reputation for delivery should be appointed to the boards and managements of these agencies. And as I said earlier on, the defense of democracy should not be about sharing positions to party loyalists, but should be about good governance. KPIs should be set and a comprehensive review of the performance regularly undertaken before any reappointment. Both the private and public sectors need to show more commitment to environmental, social, and governance practices. Investors are beginning to demand this to invest in companies and countries. Capacity building, we've had a bit about that earlier on. There's a need for continuous training and capacity building for corporate leaders, regulators, and stakeholders to enhance their understanding of governance principles, particularly in the areas of digitalization, cybersecurity. But in all this, the CIOD also has a role to play. Therefore, Mr. President and Chairman of Council, I want to make it very clear to you that the CIOD, as a very important institution in the country, has a major role to play as well. It was one of the reasons I made it absolutely clear to the FRC that they must work very closely with your institute when I inaugurated the technical committee that worked on the National Code of Corporate Governance. For efficient and effective corporate governance practices to thrive in the country, it is critical that the CIOD become advocates and facilitators for the adoption of the NCCG in the public sector. You need to make your stand known and make it public. You need to stand, be counted, and be heard. To focus on corporate governance, as I said, in the public sector only, we miss the mark and will not work, I assure you. The CIOD needs to improve the corporate governance environment. You can do something, you probably do not know, but you can improve the corporate governance environment in Nigeria, particularly in the public sector. To do this, the CIOD can, and I encourage you to consider, developing an index for ranking corporate governance in the public sector, particularly the institutions that are responsible for economic diversification and transformation. Mr. President and Chairman of the Council, I assure you, you will be amazed how that index will transform our economy and nation. And you will be making history if you are able to put that in place and produce that and announce every year. It will improve our institutions and will improve our chances to become a prosperous nation. Also, the last thing I think you can also do is to organize training programs for the boards of public institutions. They need it. They need it. They need it. In conclusion, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, unassailable corporate governance is not an option, but a necessity for Nigeria's economic transformation and diversification. It is the lighthouse that guides us through the complex waters of modern economics, helping us to navigate towards sustainable growth and shared prosperity. Nigeria, with its vast potential and human resources, has an incredible opportunity to redefine its economic landscape through effective corporate governance and become the jewel of Africa again. Together, let us work towards a future where Nigeria's economy is diversified, robust, inclusive, built on the solid foundation of good governance. Thank you for your attention. And I look forward to fruitful discussions on this critical topic. May God bless you. May God bless your institute. May God bless our great country, Nigeria. Thank you.
Indeed, our keynote speaker has delivered what can only be described as a keynote, as the French will say, formidable. He has delivered a paper that is at once forward-looking, inspiring, and one that requires that we pay close attention to all of the things that he has said. He would have spent copious amounts of night and day just taking them one after the other and unpacking the issues. Let's hear another round of applause for our esteemed keynote speaker. Dr. Aganga has not been mealy-mouthed. He has spoken, hit the nail on the head, and focused exactly on what needs to be said. A lot of the times, because of our relationships and our communities, and the way we tend to think that Nigeria is the only nation with families, we're a bit shy about saying the things as we need to say them to be, to propel our nation to where we want them to be. And at the beginning of his paper, one of the things that he said was, there's copious amounts of literature and writing and speaking and delivering papers all over the place. Our challenge has always been implementation. And those moments when we think about them in the middle of the night, the things we could have done to propel our nation forward, the things that need to be done when you have the moment to say them, the things that have to be done when you are given responsibilities in offices, these are Nigeria's malady. And until we begin to see them as everybody's business, then it becomes nobody's business. Our keynote speaker has dwelt largely on weak institutions. And unless institutions are strong, then a nation does not exist even. And a nation depends on strong institutions. Most countries around the world go further because their institutions are beyond the individuals that run them. And when you hold an office and you leave that office, that institution should be able to thrive without you. It's not about individuals. And I think Dr. Aganga has truly spoken to the issues. Capacity building, improved corporate governance environment. The private sector cannot go it alone. The public sector needs to be shored up. Strengthen MSMEs, foster innovation, and banish political interference. Sounds good. Sounds good. But this is where it begins to happen when we begin to discuss them. And it is our voices in this Chartered Institute of Directors that need to be heard, strong and bold. And I dare say that that was a keynote that was strong and bold. Let's hear another round of applause for our keynote speaker. We thank you, Dr. Aganga. When he was speaking about capacity building, political interference, I remember many years ago when I served as executive director of the Nigerian Television Authority, and I had a particularly recalcitrant deputy director. She would go off for days without permission, and she would have no reason to have been gone that long, and I would have no idea where she is. And so I decided to ask admin to give her official queries that would remind her that she works for an institution, and that if she continues to disappear without permission, it means she has neither respect for the institution nor the leadership of the institution. And so one morning, at exactly 7 a.m., God rest his soul, our letter writer, information minister, my boss, Prince Tony Momo, called me at 7 in the morning and says to me, I don't know whether you know this lady. And he had given me the name of her father, and she was now married, so I had no idea that he was speaking about her. So I said, no, I don't know who she is. She said, she's your staff. He said, she's your staff. Then he gave the full length of her name, and I'm like, oh, I do know her. He goes, she says you are her problem. You don't want her to work, you don't want her to thrive, you're harassing her, you're driving her insane. And I said, if I may, sir, if you give me a minute, may I explain what she has done? She has absconded for 1 month, and you know, sir, what the punishment for abscondment in the public service is. It is, in fact, that you'll be sacked if you have gone away for too long without permission. And he said, you know what, Eugenia, I would like you to do whatever you like to her. I worked in the public service, I tolerate no nonsense. Those are the kind of leaders we're looking for. People who have no business intervening in bad behavior. People who have no business picking up the phone and saying, forgive her, you know, she's my cousin's sister's brother. Those are the things that ail us, and we must banish from our public and private space in order to propel Nigeria forward. It has been an excellent plenary session where we have opened the floodgates and set the tone for the conversations that we would have going forward, and for us to determine as individuals and corporate bodies that we do believe in Nigeria and we want it to do better. Just listening to Dr. Aganga, it is easy to say, can we have your paper so we can use it in teaching how to run Nigeria? Absolutely brilliant. Well done, sir. I'd like to put on record that we have NMDPRA as our sponsors in energy. For digital, we have MTN. For talent, we have Access Bank. And solid minerals, we have Lafarge. And for our dinner today, we have Mofi. Would like to thank all our sponsors and exhibitors, and would like to give them a really big round of applause. Without them, we wouldn't be here. Thank you very much. Would also like to thank our exhibitors. Do not forget that the exhibition is all around. I've been round and it's beautiful to see. Go and learn a little bit more about those who have exhibited today. I'd like to salute and greet our virtual participants and thank them for joining us. And I'd like also to greet and salute members of the Fourth Estate of the Realm, my colleagues who are here covering this event, without whom nobody will know what we have done today. So I would like to thank them. I'd like to put on record that tomorrow we would be having our keynote coming from a man who has worked extremely hard to bring on board the Ministry of Finance Incorporated, Dr. Armstrong Takang. Dr. Takang, we thank you for being amongst us today and for accepting to be our keynote. That's Dr. Takang, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Mr. President, I'd like to quickly invite for the vote of thanks the Director General and CEO of the Chartered Institute of Directors, Mr. Alimi.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I usually have one of the simplest tasks at occasions like this, basically because everybody that has been here on behalf of the Institute had said thank you at one point or the other. So my own is just to summarize the thank yous and I just say a little thing. I will start the appreciation by going first to the sponsors. And I want to start with a sponsor that is also present here to add value to the event. I want to appreciate Dr. Armstrong Takang, the CEO of the Ministry of Finance Incorporated, for the great support we have received from the organization for this event, and for also extending and giving us the opportunity of listening to you keynote tomorrow morning. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mufi. We want to say a very big thank you to BUA Group, and of course to that big regulator in the financial sector, the Central Bank of Nigeria. It's one of our major sponsors for this event. We say a very big thank you to CBN. And of course to the Nigeria Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority. Thank you very much for the support. MTN Communications Nigeria PLC, thank you very much for the wonderful support. Not only did they support us with money, let me just say it's loud and clear, they also supported us with branding. And when I saw what they did outside this hall yesterday, I said, oh, as if they knew our pocket is not so deep. So thank you very much, MTN, for the great support. I want to say a very big thank you to First Bank of Nigeria Limited. That organization has been wonderful to the Institute. Apart from being a member of our planning committee, they also support us tremendously. Thank you very much, First Bank. Providence Bank, thank you very much. Access Bank, we are very, very grateful. Bank of Industry, We're grateful because it is not just now, it's been all the time. Thank you very much, Bank of Industry. Orlando PLC, thank you very much. Airtel, thank you very much, Airtel. Texem, thank you very much. We thank you for coming on board. We look forward to working with you even beyond this conference. And of course, Lafarge, thank you very much, Lafarge. And of MedPlus, thank you very much. I also want to say thank you to our media partners, News Central, Business Day, and Africa Independent Television. Thank you very much. I will want to move to our keynote speaker. I think I don't need to add anything to the summary that our wonderful company had given about Dr. Aganga's paper. I had not bought your book before now, but after listening to you, I'm going to buy it now because the book is here. So I'm going to buy it now and I want to read it. But I think it's going to make a wonderful read. We thank you for what you've told us today. And I can tell you, just like the president said, CIOD is used to those challenges. We'll take it up. I will let you know what you are doing. Thank you very much, sir. Please, a round of applause for our keynote speaker, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, to our chairman. I love it when people make a difference. I recall that when I moved from Ibadan to Lagos, I was an Ibadan boy. When I moved to Lagos, my father said, when I come to where you live in Lagos, and I stay at the end of your street, and I ask for you, and nobody knows you, I will go back. Because either for good or for bad, they must know you for something. Dr. Ernest Ndukwe headed an institution in this country that was basically unknown. And that institution made all the difference in this country. When I look at what we do with our mobile phone today, I ask myself, where were we before now? And thanks to an NCC that midwifed and gave birth to that system that we only see when we go abroad. Thank you very much, sir. And thank you for being the chairman of this event. We appreciate you for being here. Of course, in absence here, I want to recognize the Minister of Finance and the Coordinating Minister of the Economy. This morning, I got a call from his SA and said, look, I have a meeting at 11. I think you should send me a virtual link so that I can join virtually. So as I was preparing to send the link, the guy called me again and said, no, the minister said, no, he will come here personally. I really wish he was there for me to show this appreciation, but I think I will add that to the letter of appreciation that I will send to him. We appreciate him for being here and for delivering his keynote in his address. Thank you very much. And of course, I want to thank our past presidents for the support. Without the past, there can be no present. And I'm going to say a very big thank you to Mr. Chike Nwanze, Distinguished Fellow of the Institute, Architect Thomas Awagu, Distinguished Fellow of the Institute, Chief Mrs. Eniola Fadayomi, Distinguished Fellow of the Institute, Mr. Yemi Akeju, Distinguished Fellow, Chief Chris Okunowo, Distinguished Fellow, and of course the immediate past president, Dr. E.J. Jidema. Thank you very much, our past president, for supporting us during this conference and always. I also want to say thank you, of course, to the office bearers. Yesterday, the president showed me a text message from the first vice president. So it is not me now. He said, Mr. President, your vices have arrived. And that was his first vice president and the second vice president. So they've been here since yesterday. They've supported the president, they've supported the conference. Thank you very much, Mr. Adetujo Yebanji and Mrs. Amina Oyagbola, fellows of the Institute. Thank you very much. And I also want to thank, before moving on, the chairman and members of this committee, the planning committee that made this happen. Let me start by thanking the chairman and by extension, everybody in this committee. It's been a very tough one, especially within the current state of the Nigerian economy. It was not easy. Mrs. Fatumata Kuka, thank you very much. Distinguished members of the committee, I thank you very much. But for time, I will have mentioned everybody one after the other. But their names is in this brochure. You can see these distinguished ladies and gentlemen that have made this happen. Thank you very much. I want to thank the compere, Mrs. Eugenia Abu. Like she said, when I sent her that letter, I wanted her to know that it wasn't just me that was inviting her, but it was the Council of the Institute of Directors Nigeria that was inviting her. So we thank you. You've made a difference. You've added color, you've added panache. Thank you very much, madam, for making it happen. And of course, I want to thank our chief host, the president and chairman of the governing council, for that consistent call, inquiries, questions. Where are we? What is happening? How are we doing? Even when you're outside the country. And thank you very much. I think we have, without being immodest, we have done well. The program is now on autopilot, and I believe it's going to flow till tomorrow. We are going to have a wonderful time. I want to thank you very much, Mr. President, for the support for the committee, for the support for the secretariat, and for making things happen. And of course, to you all, our wonderful participants. Those of you who are here physically and those who are online, we have about 70 people online. I joined to see the people that are online. We have about 70 people online from all over the world. We say a very big thank you. I want to say thank you to all of you. I want to thank my colleagues in the secretariat. It's also been a tough one, but we thank God we are able to deliver. Thank you very much, everybody. I want to take a little bit of Madam's job by saying that after this, the VIPs and members of the contingent will go to the exhibition. We have quite a number of very wonderful organizations there who have exhibited their product and services. I want to implore us all to please check there, see them. They have things you will need. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alimi, for the wonderful vote of thanks that you have delivered. I'm glad, like Chino Achebe, you did not come forward and just say thank you, thank you, thank you. It's very difficult to remember everybody, and he has done a great job of trying to remember all of them. Mr. Alimi, we thank you once more for your vote of thanks. Let's cheer him a little bit. Also, to inform you that during the period of the tour, we expect a minimum 10 minutes and a maximum of 15 minutes, combined with a tea break, which would be a working tea break for us to return to the room for the beginning of the panel sessions. So having put that on the table, remember that we started by saluting our nation. Before we go to tea and before we go on tour, we will again take the anthem. Before then, there would be that photograph that I mentioned, and then we'll all file out. In the meantime, I'd like to greet and welcome Chief Eniola Fadayomi. Chief Fadayomi, who is a past president, is the one who taught us all as women how to be chairmen of banks. Basically, after Chief Bola Kuforuji Olubi, we all filed behind them and watched them as they began to break the glass ceiling and take us where we wanted to be. It's good to see you, looking very well. She's ageless. When I grow up, I want to be like you. I welcome you to this very distinguished gathering. The national anthem, please rise. Thank you very much. Tea break now, tour of the exhibition, and back here in 15 minutes. Thank you very much.